Hello dear students, you want to know what is integration? Why integration is inverse process of differentiation? Then please watch this video till the end. In this video, I'll tell you the analytical and geometrical meaning of integration, and towards the end I'll tell you why integration is inverse process of differentiation. Integration is inverse process of differentiation. See, integral fx dx, if you say the answer is capital Fx plus c, what is the meaning of this? The derivative of this fx is small fx. Derivative of this capital Fx is small fx. Means you are finding a function capital Fx whose derivative is small fx. For example, if I say integral 2x dx, the answer is x square. Means the derivative of x square is 2x. Means we are finding a function whose derivative is this 2x. Okay, and for this 2x, this x square becomes antiderivative. This x square becomes antiderivative. Now integral 2x dx, I can also say x square, actually we write plus c, because even if you take x square plus c and you differentiate it, you will get the same answer. Whether it is x square or x square plus c, the derivative of that function is 2x. So for 2x, x square is antiderivative, x square plus c is also antiderivative. Means if fx is antiderivative of small fx, then fx plus c is also antiderivative of small fx. Okay, so the analytical meaning of integration is, that is, if you want to know the analytical meaning of integration, you are finding a function capital Fx whose derivative is this small fx. That is the analytical meaning of integration. Okay, we use plus c because whether it is fx or fx plus c, the derivative will be the same fellow. Okay, for example, if I say integral cos x dx, what is the function whose derivative is cos x? Sin x plus c we write. So this function's derivative is cos x, and for cos x, this sin x becomes antiderivative. It becomes antiderivative. Or you can say 1 by x dx. What is the function whose derivative is 1 by x? Log x plus c. That is, for log x, 1 by x is derivative, and for 1 by x, log x is antiderivative. Now why this answer is okay such that the derivative of this function is 1 by x, that we try to understand towards the end. That is why integration is inverse process of differentiation, we try to understand towards the end. Okay, here I am just trying to tell you the meaning of integration analytically and geometrically. So this is analytical meaning of integration. So even if you take definite integral, what do you mean by integral a to b fx dx? We are finding a function capital Fx whose derivative is this small fx. Okay, so when you write this integral a to b fx dx, it is like df by dx into dx. So dx cancel, integral df means you are going to get fx limits from a to b. So which is fb, upper limit, if you substitute you get fb minus fa. Okay, so this is actually the result. Actually this result is what is called as fundamental theorem of integral calculus. Okay, so this fx is such that, this capital Fx is such that the derivative of fx is small fx. Of course I written here. Means analytical meaning of integral whether it is definite or indefinite integral, is to find a function fx such that the derivative of the function is small fx. This is analytical meaning of definite integral or integral. Now we want to take one particular example before going for geometrical meaning. Okay, I'll write this example here. First I write the analytical example, then we will go for geometrical meaning of it. Let us consider this example, integral 0 to 1 x square dx. Integral 0 to 1 x square dx. What is the integral of this? See, you don't have to find a function whose derivative is x square like that, because we have some standard rules like what is integral of x power n dx. The formula is x power n plus 1 by n plus 1 plus c. And when it is definite integration, you don't have to put the constant of integration. So what is the answer? X cube by 3, limits are from 0 to 1. So which is 1 by 3 minus 0. So the answer is 1 by 3. See, this is the analytical meaning or analytical answer for this integral. Now, what is the geometrical meaning of integral? Let us try to see. What is the geometrical meaning of integral? See, my dear friends, my main aim is to tell you what is analytical meaning, what is geometrical meaning, and I prove that both are one and the same. Okay, and towards the end I'll tell you why integration is inverse process of differentiation. Okay, now look here, what is the geometrical meaning of this definite integral fx dx? Now integral a to b fx dx means, see, this is the this is the graph of the function y is equal to fx. This is the function y is equal to fx. So when you say integral a to b fx dx means you are finding area between the curve y is equal to fx and x axis from x is equal to a to x is equal to b. That is, you are finding this area, this shaded area you are finding. See, this is the geometrical meaning. So just now we seen the analytical meaning. What is analytical meaning? Finding a capital Fx whose derivative is small fx. That is analytical meaning. This was the analytical meaning. Now we are saying the geometrical meaning of this integral is finding this area. So what I need to prove is these two are same. That is, this analytical value and this geometrical answer are one and the same. Okay. So I taken this particular example. So by analytical means you got the answer 1 by 3. Now by geometrical means also I need to get the answer 1 by 3. That is, this is a graph of y is equal to x square. This is the parabola. So we have to find area under the curve y is equal to x square. Okay, from x is equal to 0 to x is equal to 1. This area we are finding. That is, area between the curve and x axis from x is equal to 0 to x is equal to 1. We have to find this area and we have to prove this area is also 1 by 3. Then our work is completed. Okay, so this is what I am ultimately going to prove. But how to find this area? See, my dear friends, if this is a straight line like this, area under this means you get a rectangle. You can find area of a rectangle. Suppose if it is a slanted line like this, then also you can find area because it is a trapezoid. Okay, we can find the area. But this is a curve. How to find area under the curve? First of all, we need to understand. Okay, first we try to understand how to find area under the curve. Then we try to find area under this particular curve, and we prove this answer and this answer are one and the same. This is our main idea. Okay, so first of all, let us understand how to find area under the curve. Now, how to find area under this particular curve? How to find area under this particular curve? See, what they do is they divide this area under the curve into small pieces like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here he actually says area under the curve is numerically approximated by dividing area into small rectangles of equal width and then summing the areas of the rectangles will give you the total area under the curve. Now you may ask me, you can divide into small pieces. Suppose this is a part of the curve, you may divide into small piece like this, but this is not a rectangle, correct or not? Because the length may be same, or width or length, whatever you call it, the width may be same. Suppose this is L, this is L, this is L, this is L, this is L. What about the height? Whether I should take this as the height or this as the height? Actually they say you can take height either at left end point, that is if you take this as left end point as the height, I'll just show you. See, this one you can take it as height. Then this would be the rectangle. Okay, there's one more way you can do it. You can take, I'll just show you. This one is the part, suppose. You can take right end as the height. This one you can take it as height. Then this would be the rectangle. There is one more thing which people do it. You know, I'll just draw here. The midpoint, that is midpoint here, we take it as height. Now this would be the rectangle. This would be the rectangle you are going to get. Actually in this diagram he taken right hand point. This particular type of thing, rectangles, he taken in this particular example shown here. Now you may ask me, if you take this particular type, you are underestimating because some part is missing. If you take right hand in this particular case, you are counting extra, overestimating the area. And in this case, some part is missing, some part is coming again, adding again. So some people feel it is best. But you don't think that always curve is exactly like this, sir. Curve may be like this also. Okay. So whatever may be the case, some overestimate, yeah, some underestimate will be definitely happening. But here we are having only 5 rectangles. But when you increase number of rectangles, okay, the width will be reduced. And by that the area value also will be reduced and error also will be reduced. So when you make number of rectangles infinite, that is very large, what happens, that error will be negligible. Therefore these rectangles will give you the area under the curve. That is sum of areas of all these rectangles will give you area under the curve. When you increase number of rectangles to very large, mathematically infinity, then you are going to get the area under the curve. So that is actually process. Okay, so let me show you this particular process for our example, and I show you that the answer will be 1/3. Let us see that. I quickly recap the problem. This was the problem, integral 0 to 1 x square dx. We solved it and we got the answer 1/3. Now this is analytical answer. Now we have to find geometrical answer and show that these two are equal. So let me draw the graph quickly. So this is the graph, not to the scale, just okay, parabola. Y is equal to x square graph from x is equal to 0 to x is equal to 1. Now you have to find or approximate this particular area. What is the idea? You divide into rectangles. So actually 0 to 1, what is the length? 1 is the length. I want to divide into 2 rectangles. So this is width or length of each rectangle. So first this is the point. So 1/2 is length and 1/2 is length. And what is this point? This is 0, this is 1/2. So at 1/2 you get this. Okay. So what I do is I take this right end as the height. So this is the height which I am going to take. So this is one rectangle which I am going to get, and this is the second rectangle I am going to get. So I am going to approximate the area by this area of this rectangles. Am I clear? So I am going to approximate original area. This is not exact value, it is an approximate value by summing up these two areas. Let us call it as A1, A2. Let me call it as AI for I is equal to 1, 2. Now if you observe, for each of this rectangle, the length part is same, 1 by 2. But what is height? See, the function is y is equal to x square. Okay, so at x is equal to 1 by 2, the height would be 1 by 2 whole square. And at x is equal to 1, what will be the height? 1 square. Okay. So if you know these points, then you know the height. Correct or not? But instead of doing it every time, let me make these points in a general manner, so that even if I increase number of rectangles also, it is easy for us. I call these points as I by 2. When I is equal to 1, it is 1 by 2. When I is equal to 2, it is 2 by 2, that is 1. So I call this as I by 2. I don't call it as 1 by 2 and 1, I just call it as I by 2. Here I put I is equal to 1 and here I put I is equal to 2. With this, the formula becomes easier for us. So what happens to this area? I is equal to 1 to 2. See, what is area of each rectangle? Length into height. So length is how much? Fixed, na? Length is 1 by 2. The length is fixed, 1 by 2 into height, that is xi square, because at this point it is xi square. This is xi. I by 2 is our xi. So what happens to this? This is, okay, you can take 1 by 2 outside. I is equal to 1 to 2. This is I by 2 whole square, because xi is I by 2 na, so I by 2 whole square. So this would be 1 by 2. See, 2 square means 4, that also you can take it outside, 1 by 4. Sigma I is equal to 1 to 2 I square. See, for small problem, if you understand the rest of the story, instead of 2 you can put 3, then 3 rectangles. Instead of 2 you put 3 or 4 or 5 or 100 or 1000. This formula can be easily generalized now. This formula can be easily generalized. So if you understand this this form clearly, the generalization becomes very easier. So now what is it? It is 1 by 8. Now what is I square? I is equal to 1 and 2. That is 1 square plus 2 square. So it is 5 by 8. But is it equal to 1 by 3? This is not equal to 1 by 3. It is just an approximation. Because we are not finding exact area under the curve. We are finding area of these rectangles. Sum of these rectangles is approximate answer for our original area. Now this is by taking 2 rectangles. Now we try to generalize it for 4 or n rectangles. What I do is, next time instead of this 2, I make it n rectangles and I solve it. So you want 4 rectangles, you use the formula. You want 8 rectangles, you use the formula. You want 100 rectangles, you use the formula. Let me generalize this story for n rectangles. Let us see this. So this is y is equal to x square. This is x is equal to 0 to, I take this as 1. Okay, this as 1. Now this time I am making how many rectangles? N rectangles. See, it is 1 minus 0 by n. So length of each rectangle is 1 by n. Okay. So what are the points? As I given earlier also, each point I can write it as I by n. Earlier we said na, I by 2. 1 by 2, 2 by 2. Now you want n rectangles, means you make it I by n, with I is equal to 1, 2 and so on n. So when I is equal to 1, it is 1 by n. I is equal to 2, it is 2 by n. I is equal to 3, it is 3 by n. Like that you are going to get. So somewhere at the end you are going to get one more, like that. So the rectangles would be, this is one rectangle, like that you are going to get all the rectangles. Okay, all these lengths are same, sir. This is 1 by n, this is 1 by n, this is 1 by n, and this is also 1 by n. Okay, Clear to you all? Now what is the area? Now what is the area? Area is approximated with sum of the areas. This is, you can call it as A1, you can call it as A2, A3, like that, AN, where I is 1 to n. So what is it? Sigma I is equal to 1 to n. What is area of each rectangle? Length into height. So what is length here? Length is fixed 1 by n. And what is height? Because y is equal to x square na, so it is xi whole square, that is I by n whole square. So here this is all simplification. Now 1 by n, sigma I is equal to 1 to n. You can write I square by n square. Because I is varying, this n square can be taken out. This is 1 by n into n square, that is n cube. Sigma I is equal to 1 to n I square. Now if you don't know, please note this formula. I is equal to 1 to n I square means 1 square plus 2 square plus 3 square and so on n square. This is called sum of squares of first n natural numbers, and the formula for that is n into n plus 1 into 2n plus 1 by 6. So if you don't know this formula, know it and continue. So what is this answer, sir? 1 by n cube, and what is it? N into n plus 1 into 2n plus 1 by 6. Okay, I'll do it in the next slide. Now the area is approximately equal to n into n plus 1 into 2n plus 1 by 6 into n cube. Now when this approximation becomes equal, this approximation becomes equal when n is very, very large. Mathematically, n tends to infinity. So you are going to get n into n plus 1 into 2n plus 1 by 6n cube. So this is a simple limit formula. When numerator is a polynomial of power 3 or degree 3 and denominator is also polynomial of same power, then the answer is coefficient of highest degree term by coefficient of highest degree term. So what is coefficient of n cube in the numerator? 2. Coefficient of n cube in the denominator? 6. So the answer is 1 by 3. So these are all tricks which we can learn in limits, okay, separately. So this area under the curve, this is area under the curve, which is 1 by 3. And this is 1 by 3, which is exactly same as our analytical answer. So the analytical answer is exactly same as geometrical answer. So next time onwards, if you want to find integral a to b fx dx, okay, you can find it as area under the curve. Or suppose if he asks, suppose this is fx and he asks you to find area under the curve, y is equal to fx from x is equal to a to x is equal to b. Instead of finding this area by this summation method, you can just do it by this integration method. Okay, so now I am going to show why integration is inverse process of differentiation. That is, if I say integral 0 to x fx dx is capital Fx, the derivative of capital Fx is small fx. This is what you mean by integration is inverse process of differentiation. So we need to understand how this happens. Let us understand this properly. Let us assume that the curve is something like this. This is my curve y is equal to fx. Okay, see, this is the point, say 0, and let us take a point, say x here somewhere. So the geometrical meaning of integral 0 to x fx dx is the area. So integral 0 to x fx dx is this area, correct or not? And we are saying this area is nothing but capital Fx. This area is nothing but capital Fx. That is what we verified. Now look here. This is the area which is capital Fx. Now what I do, this is the point x. I just take a small extension, this one, which is called delta x. So this point would be x plus delta x. So let us take this height here. Now you got a new part or some additional part you got. Let us call the area of this as delta A. Let us call the area of this extended part is delta A. Here delta x is very small. Delta x is very small. But we already understand that we cannot find area under the curve. So we approximate this area by area of this rectangle. We approximate this area by area of this green one, rectangle. Okay. So what is this delta A now? I'll just write this now. Delta A will be this length. Length is delta x into height. So height here it would be f into x plus delta x. See, you can take height at this point or height at this point. It does not matter. Okay, this is the formula. I'll just write in the next slide, sir. So delta A is equal to f of x plus delta x into delta x. That means delta A by delta x is f of x plus delta x. Okay. Now, in the limiting case, when delta x approaches 0, what happens? This f of x plus delta x becomes fx. So that is what I am applying limit on both sides. I apply limit on both sides. Limit as delta x approaching 0, delta A by delta x is limit as delta x approaching 0, f of x plus delta x. But you all know the rate of change of one variable with respect to other variable. When this change is very, very small, this is the definition of derivative of A with respect to x. Okay. We will try to see this once again when we study differentiations, but this is the definition of derivative. And as delta x approaching 0, this becomes fx. But what is A? A is nothing but capital Fx. That means df by dx is small fx. That means we proved what is required. Integration is inverse process of differentiation. So this is the idea. Hope you understand. So from now onward, suppose if you get the problem like this, integral cos x dx, we just need to find a function sin x whose derivative is this cos x plus c. Okay. And for cos x, this sin x becomes antiderivative. As I told you, sin x or sin x plus c will have same derivative. Okay. So this antiderivative, that is whenever you are writing the integral, we use this constant of integration. Okay. See, of course, if you remember the standard formula, we can solve the problems in integration. The purpose of this video is to tell you what is integration. Okay, and why integration is inverse process of differentiation. Hope you all understand. Thank you.